Good morning and welcome. Happy early morning intuitive guidance to everybody, and happy Wednesday. I think I'm starting a little bit early, but there's lots to say today. Lots to say today. So, where do I want to begin? Well, let me tell you what it is I'm going to be sharing today. And some of you might want to grab a paper and pen just to jot down some notes, because I'm sharing my notes from interview I saw that hopefully you can still find if you want to hear it from the horse's mouth as opposed to just hearing it from me. But I thought it was such useful information, and so I thought I would share it. But to begin, let us start with some breathing and tapping. I'm a little stuffed up today because the cottonwoods are starting to do their thing. So my eyes feel like I just want to pop them out and rinse them off and pop them back in. Good morning, Abigail. Welcome. You are the first one here. Grab a drink here. I'm going to move my little coaster deal. And again, I think I'm starting a little bit early, so hopefully everybody pops on as we go. Good morning, good morning. Glad you are here. Thank you for the sparkles and the rainbow and the sunshine. I'm not sure we're going to have much sunshine today. We're supposed to get some rain, which is useful. That's needed also, and will make me feel less torn being inside getting some work done. So let's start with some tapping and some breath. Just a couple of nice, deep, letting go breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. I see my earrings are enjoying this too. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Just settling into the pace of Mother Earth, breathing deeply. Just enjoying being. Nothing you have to do right now. Just an opportunity to listen, soak up whatever's useful for you, leave the rest. It's like a cafeteria. You get to pick out what works for you. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. So, what I'm going to share today is an interview, a conversation between Carrie Cardinal, who, I'm trying to remember, she works for MEA, and she's interviewing Pam McLean, who started the Hudson Institute of Coaching, I believe, is what it was called. But the title of this interview is Crafting a Meaningful Post-Work Chapter. Crafting a Meaningful Post-Work Chapter. And most of you who follow me, there are some younger people on here, but younger people are also retiring. That's the old word in their lexicon. They call it a bonus round. They call it a bonus round. That once we retire, we are stepping into our bonus round, which I liked that concept. And if we look at the history of retirement, when Social Security was first created, people lived a very short time after ending work. They might make it a year or two. That was about it. Now we have people who are living 30 and 40 years beyond retirement. And we have people who are retiring much earlier. So rather than retiring at 65 or 70, people are retiring in their 40s and 50s. Good morning, Joe Neal. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad you are here. I started a bit early, so I figured there might be a lag in people finding me. But I really want to share this information. I have, good morning, Nancy. Welcome. Glad you're here. I have like 4 pages of notes, but I'm just going to pick out some of the concepts to share with you. And if you really like what you're hearing here, go hunt up their interview, Crafting a Meaningful Post-Work Chapter. It's Carrie Cardinale interviewing Pam McLean. So, again, they're saying that many of us are navigating far more transitions than people navigated in the past. People had their work career, and shortly thereafter they died. Not anymore. We're living 20, 30, 40 years beyond retirement. So they talk about retirement as being an outmoded term. Their new term is bonus round. We're having our bonus round. So I just wanted to share some of their thoughts about the bonus round that resonated for me, and I think may help give some explanation to some things you're experiencing, and may also give you some guidance in terms of directions to go. So they talked about how am I to find meaning outside of work? How do I find meaning outside of work? And again, it's not a brief time anymore. It's 20, 30, 40 years. What do we want to do with that bonus round in our life? And they said basically the old paradigms just aren't working anymore. They were created for a relatively homogeneous kind of thing. People got to 65, they retired, they had a couple of years, they died. That's not the path anymore. It's a much more diverse group of folks retiring across a huge span of ages, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Some never retire, etc. And that this is about creating a new identity. They were lamenting that one of the saddest things they hear is when people say, I used to be a lawyer, I used to be a doctor, I used to be a train engineer, I used to be a bus driver, I used to be. Who are you now? Who are you now? And they said it's time to create a new identity. Don't hang on to what was. And this I thought was a great way to think about it. Good morning, Carolyn. Glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. Great way to think about it. Every transition in our life, every single transition in our life is a little death. It's death to the old, and there's a rebirth, a hello to the new. But we have such issues with death and dying that the letting go of a hat we wore at one point is painful for a lot of us. Think about those who go through empty nest syndrome. That's a transition, and some people struggle with that transition. And what they said about that is it's hard to let go of roles of significance. So in that case, you're letting go of the hands-on parent role. That is definitely a role of significance. And to let that go for many people is a painful thing. And they struggle with the letting go of it. So we're shedding identities as we go. We have all these labels. And I've told you this story before, that my life was so chaotic in my 30s and 40s that I made a vision board, chain link, all the way around it. Every link was something a role that I had, a hat that I put on. And when I could visually see it, it was like, well, no damn wonder I'm exhausted. So shedding some of our roles. I feel like I'm right now in a place of preparing to shed some more roles. And it's an interesting time. There's some trepidation attached to that. Good morning, Angie. Welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. And you just went through one of these, the transition to empty nest. And how do we let go of those roles of significance? And they said, one of the things that typically happens is initially we feel this relief. And then we're kind of at loose ends. Okay, now what? Now what do I do with myself? And it's harder now to move forward because the way forward is less clear. Why is it less clear? Because we have so many more options. Again, it's not just, I'm 65, I retire, I die. Now it's, I'm 45, I retire, I pick a new career. Or I'm 55 and I retire and I take a year off, I take a year sabbatical. Or I'm 70 and I retire and I just want to sleep. Whatever it is, there's so many new paths in this bonus round that we used to call retirement. So, the letting go of a work they said the letting go of a work identity is a challenge. It takes time, and it needs to occur within a social network. So people do retire and they join groups. They were talking about pickleball and how pickleball, part of the wave of pickleball is the role it serves. It's a social thing for people who may no longer be doing their job. It's got structure, it's got some order, it makes sense, right? So they suggested that cultivating that social fabric is really important. And if you're still working, which some of you are, cultivating that social fabric before you step into your bonus round, your retirement, is a really good idea. Really good idea. They talked about cultivating your own inner dialogue. What does your inner dialogue say about retirement? My dad always said, you rest, you rust. And he's lived to that. Thus, he's 90 years old and he's still working, right? So finding ways to gracefully transition into these new states of being. Yes, I've taken off that work hat, but now I've got other hats I want to put on. Other hats, I'm traveler. I want to put on my traveler hat for a while. Whatever it is. Sometimes when we are making this transition, we feel that initial relief from letting go of a role that may have been very taxing or exhausting. And then we step into this bargaining phase. And I've done this. I've seen this in myself as I've let go of the role of psychologist, as I've let go of some of the consultant roles I've had. I'm struggling with one right now. We bargain with ourselves on how we can go back to the way we were. Well, maybe I could just do it 10 hours a week. Or maybe I could just, do this portion of it and let someone else take over the other portion. We bargain with ourselves. That may be okay, but we really want to be aware of, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Why, when I've set this thing down, now am I wanting to pick it back up? Is this in my highest and best good to pick it back up? They had what they called the midlife atrium. Midlife atrium. I thought that was a great. I thought that'd be a great title for, maybe it's for the retreat that I may do in October. We'll see. The midlife atrium, where you can see all of what's around you and all of what's possible, and you've created that space. So I love that. They were talking about Erik Erikson and the generativity versus self-absorption piece, and how to be generative rather than stagnating. One of the statistics that Pam shared as they were doing this interview was most of us were working a 40-hour work week. When we retire, we replace it with something that takes on average 47 hours a week. Do you know what that is? Watching television. On average, retirees watch television 47 hours a week. That's not generativity. That's not generativity. So, Chip Conley, who is one of the founders of MEA, had a quote: "A key to generativity is curiosity." A key to generativity is curiosity. If one of you wants to put that in the feed, I think that would be awesome. A key to generativity is curiosity. When we are curious, we are more likely to put ourselves out in the world. We're more likely to try stuff. Some people find that as they get to a certain age, their critic begins to take a little vacay and is less in their face about, you can't do that, don't try that, you'll look stupid, blah, blah, blah. Takes a little vacation. We have a little more latitude to try some things and be willing to suck at them. Pickleball. Think about pickleball. If you never were a racket sport person, you're probably going to suck. Because it takes time to get used to this sort of a thing. But I think that is such a cool idea, that creativity is what can feed all of this. Curiosity, right? We allow our ego to recede. It's not driving the bus anymore. So that critic is a little more quiet. They talked about a term, gerotranscendence. Gerotranscendence. We allow the ego to recede. We tap that sacred sense of every day is a gift, every day is a miracle, every day has something to offer. We have more comfort with ambiguity, so we may be willing to tolerate a little more not knowing. Oh, I wonder how this is going to work out. And our curiosity capacity can increase. There we go. Yes, 2 people she knew died over Memorial Weekend. What am I meant to do? What's my path, etc. Yes, yes, yes. And my daughter just had a friend who died at 32. 32. Potentially by her own hand. Don't know. But you think about that. 32. All of those years not to be lived. Just, yeah. They also talked about as we get older, and certain careers certainly push this. Nursing, being a physician, etc. Push, push, push the, you have to be God with a little g, all-knowing, blah, blah. What they said was, your knowing mind starts to recede. And your wondering mind, which we all have as kids, right? Wonder how this works. Oop, if I stick this knife in this socket, what happens? Oh, that's not fun. Wondering mind. Wondering mind gets squelched coming out of childhood. Good morning, Mel. Glad you're here. Welcome. So we go back into wondering mind as we get into our bonus round, as we've let go of our job that sucked up so much of our life, and for some of us filled our soul, and for others of us it was soul sucking. But so when that wondering mind comes forward, so she talked about cancer and having gone through cancer, and cancer being her teacher. And Carolyn, you've been a beautiful example of this for us. The walk with cancer, not the battle, not the fight. Let's not go there. Her words were, I transformed cancer into a teacher rather than a war to fight. It awakens in us what really matters and how we want to spend our time. What is important? And you hear that from people who've gone through various kinds of trying times. A health scare, a car accident, their house burns down, someone else in their world dies, and they go through that phase of discernment. What is most important to me? Why am I wasting my time on this? This is not where I want to be, who I want to be, whatever. And they do that purge. They molt. They molt something that no longer serves them. Let it go. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. What do you discern from that? When I was on my little sabbatical, the inner talk was, there's so much in your life that you're wound around your axle about that really doesn't matter. When I was watching the little hummingbird go to every little flower on the bleeding heart, it was like, this is what matters. This is what matters. Not whether or not someone's pissed off at me because I said something in a way that they didn't like. Yes, joy in every day. Think about that. There was a chunk of time in my life where the word joy was anathema. I had no idea what that even meant. I was so busy churning through the obligations that joy just wasn't a part of my life. Fabulous that cancer opened the door to joy. That is awesome. That is awesome. One of the other things that goes on in our life, and we've talked about this repeatedly, is how that pace picks up, how we get rolling. Question priorities, yes. Path and life. Where do I go from here? And let's insert a word there. Where do I want to go from here? Where do I want to go from here? What's important to me? For me, like yesterday, I had a desk full of stuff to be done. Called up Diane, said, let's go to the park. So we did. And we got to see the goslings. There were a bazillion of them. They were so much fun. Some of them were still itty bitty, and they had that cast of yellow to them. And some of them were getting a little bigger, and you could tell they were just about ready to get feathers instead of the fuzz. So they were all over the place. That was a much better way to spend our afternoon, I think. So one of the things that they said, put this in the feed if someone would, disrupt ourselves with great regularity. Disrupt ourselves with great regularity. And it doesn't have to be big disruptions. It may be, I always have coffee in the morning. I'm going to have tea today. It could be, I always sit on the left side of the porch. I'm going to sit on the right side of the porch. I always go to work this particular way. I'm going to go a different way. I always go to the same church service. I'm going to pick one of their other services. I'm going to go to a different church. I'm going to disrupt yourself. Disrupt yourself. And notice, what does that stir? It usually is enlivening. Yes, where do I want to go from here? Want in capital letters. Yes, yes, yes. Note also that many of us have bought into the idea of happily ever after. I ought to be able to get to a point where it's happily ever after. Thank you, Abigail. I appreciate you putting that in there. Happily ever after is a myth. That is not true life. True life is ebbs and flows and hills and troughs and goods and bads and whatever we deem them to be. But those troughs, the hard times, the valley of the shadow of death, do we not learn most of what's useful in those dips? We learn a lot of good stuff there. So rather than wishing those away, what if we appreciated them when we go through them? Okay, it's dark right now. This is not a whole lot of fun. Wonder what great gifts I'm going to take out of this. You can ask yourself, what is required of me to let go of my old identity? If I keep telling people, yeah, I used to be a nurse, I used to be a nurse, I used to be a nurse, what is required of me to let go of that? That had its season. That informed who I was, who I became, who I am. But it had its season. Who am I now? Who am I now? Who do I want to be in the future? And what do I need to believe, change, let go of, heal, do now to become that person? To become that person. I can't imagine a sadder existence than sitting in front of the TV 47 hours a week. I cannot imagine. What are we going to do with our time? How are we going to stimulate our brains? How do we reshape our identity? How do we reshape our identity? There we go. Thank you, Abigail. I appreciate that question too. Journal on some of these. See what comes up for you. Whatever identity we're creating, we're stepping into, it needs to be juicy. It needs to be as juicy as what we used to do. Otherwise, there's going to be that constant desire to fall back. Yes, who am I now? And who do I want to be? Thankful for the people who walk me through hard times. Yes, yes, yes. And who hold up the mirror for us to see, who am I being right now? Is this who I want to be right now? Those fabulous friends, my coffee group. I love my coffee group. And we were telling one of the women yesterday how valuable she is to our group because she takes the governor off. She just asks the question. She puts it out there. The good, the bad, the ugly, it's out there. And that's so helpful. That's so helpful. Again, we want to get away from framing ourselves as I used to be. Who am I now? Who am I now? That doesn't mean that we can't share what we used to do because it puts us into a context. But do you really want to be boxed in by that? Just a question. Anxiety and creativity cannot exist in the same space. Anxiety and creativity cannot exist in the same space. So one of the things that we often do with people who are anxious is do something. Get up and go do something. Don't sit there with your thoughts because they will take you on the hayride through hell. Do something. So the way she put it, Pam McLean, and I thought this was so cool because she said, I've been messing around with being a potter for several years. She goes, what I found is be in my fingers, not in my head. Be in my fingers, not in my head. So if you're a gardener, be in your hands, not in your head. Do you not find some peace when you're doing something? People knit for that reason. People crochet for that reason. When their hands are busy, they can be in their hands and get out of their head, right? And I think it was Mary Kay Ash who said this. Your mind is a dangerous neighborhood. Don't spend too much time there. So, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He's got such a, that last name is about that long, but I practice saying his last name, Csikszentmihalyi. Talked about flow, the flow created by having enough challenge to keep you engaged. So we can't just do totally mundane stuff that we can do without being at all mindful. But we want to engage our mind in something. So if, let's say I'm planting flowers. Let's say I'm going, ooh, I want to put 3 bulbs here, and I want to put 5 bulbs over there. And the brain is still working, but it's on something different. It's on something different. Loved this question. I would love to have this one in the feed. How do I want to address the world when I have the freedom every day to do so on my own terms? How do I want to address the world when I have the freedom every day to do so on my own terms? And I will acknowledge, we are people of privilege. Those of you who are watching me, we are people of privilege. There are people who don't have this luxury. We want to be appreciative of this luxury, and we want to help other people elevate into more of this luxury. There was a statistic, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but it blew my mind. It was something like 0.1% of the world's population has a vehicle. That blew my mind. How many of us have 2 or 3 vehicles sitting in the driveway? We don't realize and appreciate that privilege. So now, to utilize that privilege, how do I want to address the world when I have the freedom every day to do so on my own terms? Ponder, ponder. So there's the agility to step out of our roles and step into other roles. There's the joy of stepping out for a period of time. People go on vacation. I think part of the reason we go on vacation, yes, it's to see things, but it's also to put ourselves in a different place. Thank you, Abigail. Appreciate that. Put ourselves in a different place because our mindset can be different, can be much more expansive when we're out of our routine. Let's see. Half a page to go here. This longer lifespan that we now are living creates new opportunities for us. Yes, fabulous. So you're practicing. You're practicing for your bonus round. Fabulous. That is awesome, awesome, awesome. They said, these are extraordinary times in which we live. They are anxiety-provoking. Find ways to be in this moment without panicking. Call on that agility that we have. Hearken back to, there have been dark nights of the soul before. This is merely the current dark night of the soul that we need to navigate. And as without, so within. So we create what's out there. So this muck that we're going through right now, we have generated it through our collective thoughts. Are you willing to change your thoughts that go into the collective as a way to change what's going on right now? Change the outcomes. This bonus round is a time for something new. That doesn't mean you throw out all the skill sets you have, but it may mean that you repurpose those skill sets in different ways. Use those tools different. If you're a great organizer, use that in other ways to benefit yourself and benefit our world. We need to notice our own beliefs. How many people still have that belief that they are going to retire and die in 2 years? And some people still do that. That's the pattern they have. We need to rethink this. If much of your identity has been wound up in your job, start now reframing yourself. Who am I post work life? That doesn't mean you aren't still going to be earning money, doing things, using your skills, whatever. But who am I really? Who am I? I'm this divine child of God who happens to be a teacher, or I'm this divine child of God who happens to be a lawyer, whatever it is. I continue to be that divine child of God, but what I happen to do changes. They also talked about there being a mortality awareness that comes. We realize we've got less life ahead of us than we do behind us. And it changes how we live our lives. So for many people, it's about, like Carolyn going through a couple of people dying over the Memorial Day weekend. That gives us pause. My daughter's friend passing away gave me pause. End of her life at 32. So I'm 64. What do I want to be doing? What's most important to me? Today, one of the things that's going to be most important to me is going to buy the plants for my planters. Is there a whole lot of work to do? Yep, there's a whole lot of work to do. I want to buy the plants for my planters. That's important to me. So, we get more, they talked about it this way, we get more riveted on what's really important. We get more riveted on what's really important. And we're modeling that for younger generations. Wouldn't it be lovely, and I think this is happening, where younger generations aren't so heavily focused on work that they forego having a more balanced life until they retire. No, they're figuring out ways to make this more balanced now. I think that's awesome. Some of the baby boomers have a hard time with that because that's not how we were wired. That's not what we were trained to do. So, here's the last statement. I want you to take a breath. Let it go. Feel yourself opening to receive these words. In. Out. Yes, so Nancy says, my profession does not define me. I do. Here are the words. I can live differently now. I can live differently now. So then the next sentence that comes to you, right, is how do I want to live differently now? How do I want to live differently now? I'm feeling like one of the things I'm going to be doing is extending my morning routine, my morning practice, the part of my day that I really look forward to, where I just sit here and stare out the window at the birds and do some journaling and, maybe burn some Palo Santo, whatever it is, the just be part of my day. Investing more in that just be part of the day. So I would love for you to put in the feed what of this sharing resonated the most for you. Maybe what is one difference you're going to make? Maybe what is one hat you're going to take off? Well, I've been the secretary for this particular club for 5 years. I think I've done my stint. Whatever it is, I'd love to hear how you're going to take my notes from this beautiful conversation, crafting a meaningful post-work chapter, your bonus round. I'd like you to do, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm in my bonus round, and spell it out. What does this thing look like, sound like, feel like? Is it quacking like a duck? How does it work? Spend some time with this. Truly invest some time in this. Well worth your time. Have an awesome day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, you're capable of far more than you think you are. Enjoy your bonus round.